Greetings and salutations, Second Star Right, back with more Raid Shadow Legends. This weekend is another summon draft that Plarium has given us. It's a little bit different than the ones we've experienced recently, where they've all been kind of faction-based. This one's not faction-based, and it's interesting because, you know, Plarium has spent a lot of time trying to get people to be interested in faction wars. It's really the last new content we've seen, and that was a while ago, and it's kind of alarming to say that. Yes, there's another tag arena coming out, but that's not really anything new, right? It's not really. It's just arena 3 times. But anyway, trying to drum up interest in faction wars makes sense. It's the biggest new content drop that we've had, and it was a long time ago, but they've made it more accessible since then. They've lowered the difficulty a couple times. They've tried to beef up our rosters with these summon drafts. But now I think we're getting to a different point in the game, right? It's a little bit more mature, right? And I think now some people, maybe a lot of people even, who have been playing for a while, are looking more for quality over quantity, right? Like, I totally enjoyed the Ancient Shard summons that we had last weekend. It's so much fun to do those and get, a lot of epics, maybe a few legendaries sprinkled in here and there. It's a real dopamine rush, right? But, that doesn't satisfy everyone. I think people can, at some point, just start getting a lot of duplicates, and kind of the fun kind of drains out of it a bit. So I can see how a lot of people who have a lot of champions now are thinking, but really, I just want this guy, right? And we've seen Plarium offer, individual champions. They just did a Kymar, 2 weeks ago or what have you. They've done Skullcrown, they've done Dracomorph, they've done Madame Ceres, really, really good champions. And what they've done here is they've taken 6 really good champions and put them all in one summon draft from various factions. It's pretty intense. I mean, what we have here is a veritable murderer's row of champions. They all kind of serve. They've chosen ones that all have a niche, but they are still good everywhere, just because the champions themselves are just overall very good. But they did select ones that can kind of slot into different dungeons. There's arena champions, and then there's some that offer just utility everywhere. So let's get into that first. First up, there's a 10 times chance, if you draw a legendary, to draw Shan, or the true Godzilla, as Scratch refers to him in his video. That just came out a little while ago. Pretty good video. Okay, so Shan, you see him in arena a lot because he has an amazing speed aura, 24% in all battles. So he's not just good in arena. I mean, he is pretty good everywhere, and his skill set reflects that. His A1 is pretty pedestrian. Attacks an enemy, 25% chance of placing extra hit. And you can't increase that past 25%, but still, that 25% chance of an extra hit is one of the highest ones of the champions that get extra hits, right? So, and it does a decent amount of damage. It's actually in the top 10 as far as modifiers are concerned. Moving on to his A2, which is quality. His Frightful Claws, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, but you get it down to a 3-turn cooldown, and this is a champion that you want to book because he's fast and he has a lot of skills that are on short cooldowns, right? So he attacks all enemies twice. Each hit has a 20% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. So an AoE stun every 3 turns, fantastic, right? And it's a double hitter, so you have each hit has that 20% chance, and you can increase that to 25, 30, 45, 60%. It's amazing. Okay, and then his A3 is attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff for 2 turns. So you have the high version of decreased defense for 2 turns, and it's on a 5-turn native cooldown that you can get down to 4 turns. Actually, you can get down to 3 turns. So you can get down to 3 turns. That's amazing. So he has his A2 and his A3 that can both be on a 3-turn cooldown. Absolutely fantastic, and he's fast, and he has a pretty high attack and pretty decent defense, even. So Shan is definitely a champion that if you don't have him, then I don't. But he's definitely a really good addition, and you can use him anywhere. He's great in dungeons. He's great in arena. Just a really solid all-around champion. Okay, so moving on, let's go into. I want to go into the demon spawn. Let's talk about Alure. Okay, so Alure is on offer. And she is the turn meter reducer queen. She is so good at this. So she's really good in Fire Knight especially. Also good in Spider, but especially Fire Knight. If you look at her A1, Psychic Whip attacks 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. So, if you get 3 critical hits, you're really, really reducing that turn meter. Well, how does that math work again? 75%? It's amazing. It is really good. Actually, it's not really 75%. It's 25%, then 25%, then 25%. So it doesn't anyway, you'll see it in action. I don't have her, but when you see Allure in action, you can see that it's not exactly 75%, but it's still pretty sweet, pretty amazing. Okay, so Temptation is her A2. Attacks all enemies twice. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased defense debuff for 1 turn. So it's a low version of decreased defense, but also places a sleep debuff for 1 turn on targets under decreased defense debuffs. Now, I think improving that skill would be it puts sleep on people who didn't get the decreased defense. That would make more sense. But beggars can't be choosers, and that is on a 4-turn cooldown. They can get down to 3 turns, so not bad. And then her Hellish Blaze A3 attacks one enemy, extra 30% chance of inflicting a crit, and ignores 50% of the target's defense. So the potential for high damage is there. She also has a Faction Crypt's accuracy aura by 50, but the real selling point is this turn meter A1, which is absolutely fantastic and can be a real lifesaver on boss fights and anywhere where you want to really keep that turn meter down. Fire Knight especially, Spider especially, just really good. Okay, so moving on. Actually, we can stay right here, can't we? No, we can't. Ithos is a Dark Elf. So let's see, who can we talk about next? Let's talk about Septimus. Okay, so this is he's good everywhere, but this clan boss is really his claim to fame. He can do things that no other champion can to his degree on clan boss. Okay. Behead, attacks one enemy, this is A1, attacks an enemy, grants an extra turn, and resets the cooldown on this champion's Holy Sword skill if the target is killed. Okay, so we're talking about clan boss, but this is where he's good in other content, right? His Holy Sword that they're referring to in this A1 is actually based on enemy max hit points, so a huge boon to and buff to your damage when you're attacking a boss or anyone with a really high hit point pool. Attacks an enemy, ignores shield and block damage also, and then of course damage increases according to enemy max hit points. So again, against boss fights and the clan boss even, it's really good. And then his passive is fantastic. Each attack, giant killer. Okay, so there's a clan boss skill called that also, so that kind of gives you a hint as to where he's good. Each attack has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Damage inflicted by each attack increases by 30% if the enemy's current hit points is over 50%. So you can see the amazing applications there when in a team full of debuffers. It is actually just phenomenal. Septimus is one of the best champions for clan boss out there. And he also increases ally attack in all battles by 23% as an added bonus. Okay, so let's go on. Who else do we have here? Next in Murderer's Row, we have... let's go into High Elves. This is the guy I picked up in my 2x Ancient Shard event, Royal Guard. His claim to fame is, of course, his utility in Spider, but his skills are useful anywhere. Let's go over them now. His A1, Razor Blade, attacks the enemy, 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff for 2 turns. So again, on Spider, you really want that defense down all the time on Spider, so that all of your champions that have, the enemy max hit point, you're pairing with a Cold Heart or whatever, they get that increased damage from the defense down. And then his A2, Takedown, attacks all enemies. Damage increases according to enemy max hit points, right? So it's based on his attack and enemy max hit points. So that is his huge, several 100,000 late game attack. And then his A3 is Hamstring, which is actually another really good one in Spider because it decreases speed. Attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 60% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Each hit also has a 60% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 25%. So slow and turn meter reduction on one skill. Again, this guy is just really good in Spider. It's on a 5-turn cooldown. They get down to 4 turns. So that is pretty cool. Alright, so after Royal Guard, who do we have? Let's go into the High Elves. Let's go into the Dark Elves. Because we were just there. And where is... Oh, no, maybe he was in High Elves, wasn't he? Alright, let me rewind. Okay, here we go. I was right there. Why did I change screens? Ithos. Ithos is the Arena Master here. He is so good in Arena. Again, all of these champions are good everywhere, but they all kind of have like an angle, right? And his is Arena. So let's go over his skills here. Gouge attacks the enemy. 20% chance of granting an extra turn. Another extra turn champion. Decreases enemy max hit points by 15% of damage dealt. That's not really a big deal. His A2 attacks all enemies 3 times, places a 15% weaken buff for 2 turns. Okay, so again, end game content. Weaken is really good, probably even better than defense down. Defense down is good, when you're weaker. You're not as strong. Your champions aren't as strong, but placing a AOE weaken is just an amazing skill, absolutely amazing, especially in end game when all your guys that deal more damage. Weaken affects them and impacts them more than it was back in early game. So this is a really good end game champion. Extinguished Life is his A3, attacks all enemies in the stack is always critical. Alright, so, excuse me, you have an always critical hit and you can get it down to a 4-turn cooldown. Now he does take a number of books, but, I guess at that level, you're gonna want to eke out as much damage as you can at this level because in endgame content, he's just, he's pretty good. Okay, and who do we have left? Oh, we have Seer. So we go over to the barbarians. No, she's an orc. Alright, now we have Seer. Seer, now here again, we have the theme where these champions are kind of geared for endgame. Now they're still good for people early and mid game, but endgame these champions are especially good, right? A lot of their skills really shine when you have better gear and you have a better team comp that fits them. They just kind of work better, and Seer is a good example of this. I have her at level 50, and she's pretty mediocre, to be honest, right? If you just kind of put her in a team without thinking about the team composition, without thinking about what's going on, she doesn't need great gear, but she does need a good team composition. And if you're not really thinking about that when you're going into a fight, she's not going to be as good as when you're in end game. You're up against people with larger hit point pools where she can just do more damage. And we'll go over why that is in a second. So Knockout attacks an enemy, 15% chance of granting extra turn. There's a theme here. This is another extra turn champion. Extra turn is super powerful when you have really good gear. Clan Banner is their A2, places a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 2 turns, and places a 25% weakened buff on all enemies for 2 turns. We talked about how good Weaken is later on. This is another example of why in endgame, when you have really good champions that are hitting harder, that Weaken is a really good debuff, and you can get that down to 3-turn cooldown. Karma Burn. Okay, so this one removes all buffs from allies and enemies, then attacks all enemies, and damage increases according to the number of removed buffs. So you have Dracomorph, putting in 4 poisons. You have Tomb Lord putting in, 3 poisons on everyone, right? You just stack the buffs, and, buffs on yourself too. Counterattack champions that also put up, ally protect. Anyone that puts up multiple buffs and debuffs. It wipes them all out and transfers all that to damage against your opponents, and it is amazing when you have really strong champions. Okay, 50% chance of placing a sleep debuff on all enemies for a turn. Also, anyone that you don't kill, right? Chance of placing a sleep debuff increases by 5% for each buff removed. Inflicts less damage to bosses, which would have to do it because she does a massive amount of damage because it's based on enemy max hit points. Again, common theme. All these heavy hitting champions, when they're attacking bosses, they use this enemy max hit point skill, and it just does massive amounts of damage. So we see her a lot in people's speed dungeon runs. She just rips through the dungeon waves and gets to the bosses very quickly. This is on a 6-turn cooldown. They can get down to 4 turns. All right, so absolutely fantastic. Did I leave anyone out? No, I believe I talked about everybody. Okay, so these are really good champions. Now they're more geared for endgame, right? So you have to think about, who's this really for, right? It's going to be for people who have really good teams already. They're just like maybe that one champion away from being able to farm a level 20 dungeon effectively, right? They have all their gears ready, they have books, they need the champions to get them over the top, right? Royal Guard can do that for Spider, Allure can do that for Fire Knight, Ithos can keep you in Gold 4 and get you into Platinum, with other good champions around him. Seer can help you farm super easy. This is what you want to do at endgame. You want to just get to the boss as soon as you possibly can to help, win your tournaments, top out your events, all that stuff. Speed is the key, later on. And this summon draft just is really, really good for those endgame players. But these champions can also be really good, of course, for beginning players. Give someone who's just starting clan boss a Septimus, and they have their outlaw monk. I mean, they can still increase their damage fourfold, perhaps even just with that one champion. So even for low spend, free to play players, these are all going to be really good champions, right? Even though they shine probably at the higher end of the spectrum, they're still fantastic champions, and getting any of these would be great for anyone's account. This is a really good summon draft. Again, it's not a double chance, so you're still stuck with the same metrics that you have during a regular draw. So if you go over to the portal, it's not great. Where's my info? All right, so again, it's 0.5 chance to get a legendary, right? And only 6% from sacreds. And we're probably mostly cleared out from the ancient shard one. So probably the only things we really have, a lot of us really have left, are sacreds and voids. If we had the determination and the strength to not draw all of them last time. Look, I've only accumulated 6 more ancient shards since last week, right? But I have 14 voids and 7 sacreds, and is it worth it? I mean, I have a pretty decent account, right? It's not totally endgame, but it's getting there. I got a lot of duplicate champions that were epics. Maybe it's worth going for a Septimus. That would really help my clan boss team out a lot, right? I could replace Juliana. That'd be awesome. That would totally move me up 1. I might do that. I might try to draw for a Septimus. The odds are crap, but it's still better odds than me saying I want a Septimus and then draw on a double sacred chance event, because that's 12% of getting anything. This is 6% of getting a 10 times chance to get a Septimus. So it's still not great, but it's better than it usually is. And so this is kind of what this draw is for. People kind of with a strong team that just need someone to put them over the edge. They need the specific champion, and this is good for that, right? It's kind of cool having 6 rather than just being Prince Kymar or just being Skullcrown or just being one champion. Having like a couple to choose from is fun. It adds a little twist to it. You know me, ordinarily I only say draw on double chance events, but if you're looking for specific champions, this is the way to go. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Throw me a like. Please comment down below if this is something that you're going to participate in. Tell me what you get. I'd love to hear it. And subscribe if you want to see more. Alright guys, take care, enjoy, and I'm out of here. Oh, that's the wrong button, isn't it? Let me try that again. Guys, I'm out of here. Bye. Good night. Man is late. See ya.